You don't want your things to be stolen or to be led down the wrong part of the river, right? Well, then you better pay attention to what these little things are, what they do, and how to coexist with them while you're in their home. You've probably heard of some type of little person if you've been watching my channel for a while now. You have the Yunwi T'sundsi, minehune, Puckwudgies, and today, the Cree bring forth the legend of the Mannegishi, another small humanoid being that is said to roam the woods of their respective region. That area makes up primarily Canada, such as north and west of Lake Superior, in Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and the Northwest Territories. So what can you expect if you run into one of these Mannegishi? Well, first off, you're not likely to run into one of them at all, unless you're on the river. Looking for them near rapids should actually give you the best results, but just a warning, they look nothing like the Yunwi T'sundsi. Essentially, the Yunwi T'sundsi look a lot like us, with eyes and a nose, with hair and clothes and all, but there's variations based on which tribe you end up running into. The Mannegishi look more like the Dover demon. Now, I'll explain what that looks like in a little bit and why it matters. I've been asked this on multiple occasions. Do I truly believe in these legends and creatures? To which I always reply something kind of like this. I do have my own personal beliefs in the world and about how it came to be. But in order to be respectful to others and acknowledge my own lack of knowledge and my lack of omniscience, I never tell anyone that they didn't see what they claim to have seen. I wasn't there and I don't know what people have or haven't seen. And I'm not really interested in calling others liars for encountering something unknown. If you've encountered a little person in the woods or anything odd and unexplainable, let me know in the comments. So the Mannegishi are very small humanoid entities with 12 fingers, 6 fingers on each hand. They're also said to have a completely hairless head with very large eyes, and where their nose is supposed to be, just a flat piece of flesh. And their heads are very large. They're described as being bulbous in appearance. Essentially, they're kind of like baby Voldemorts running around in the woods. It's not something I like to think about. The Mannegishi are typically benign creatures, but they are known to send canoes astray or even steal things if they're not shown proper respect. The Ojibwa also have a different name for these creatures, but they're supposedly the same entities. The Ojibwa call them Minegishi, and in their traditions, they can only be seen by children and medicine people. But other traditions say that they can appear to anyone, and get this, if you're in need of help and actually have some spare tobacco on you, they're said to be willing to help you out if you're ever in a rut. Maybe they could help me carry my camera gear. To the Ojibwa, the Mannegishi or Minegishi are said to carve symbols on rocks, canoes, and even trees, which is really interesting, because to the Cree, the Mannegishi are said to be the cause for the pictographs found on stones in their land. However, one large variation between what the Cree and Ojibwa have as descriptions is a very hairy face. The first part of their name, Memi, is the Ojibwa word for hairy, and to the Ojibwa, they're said to have hairy faces, whereas the Cree say that they do not have any hair or fur on their faces. It actually resembles the appearance of a fairly well-known cryptid to Massachusetts, the Dover Demon. This creature was seen by multiple groups of people throughout the course of multiple nights, and it is definitely something that deserves its own video, but for time's sake, I'll give you the short version. During the 70s, multiple witnesses came forward with the sighting of a small gray creature with a large bulbous head and big pupilless eyes, and no visible nose. It was seen walking on both 4 legs and 2. Its eyes glowed, and many say that it's best compared to the classic appearance of gray aliens. But perhaps the Mannegishi are the explanation behind what those people saw 50 years ago. So this actually comes from the legends of the Algonquin, but is said to be the same creature from Ojibwa and Cree legend. The Algonquin called it the Minegishi. It's essentially just like the Ojibwa version, but spelled much differently. So this encounter is rumored to have happened at Lake Temiskaming. These Minegishi or Mannegishi were said to have been the variety that was very hairy. The natives of the land were passing along the high ledge of a rock a few miles below Haileybury. Now, if this is the Haileybury that I'm thinking of, I looked it up, and it was actually founded in 1889 by Charles Cobalt. So the natives were passing by, and they had to make their way to a section of the river that had very deep water. They were out there because they were going to retrieve their fishing nets, which they were actually having trouble with. Somebody had actually been stealing their fish. So as they made their way to the nets, they decided to stop and watch them from afar. They wanted to see if they could catch the thieves in the act and possibly confront them. So they sat back and were watching for a little while when they saw these small beings, 3 of them to be exact. They were actually on top of an old log, and they were using this log as a canoe and were using sticks as their paddles. So the natives run after the Minegishi while the little people hid their faces. I'm not sure why, but perhaps it has something to do with their shame or power. But anyways, as they pursued the little people, one of the men happened to catch one, and once he did, another of the men yelled out, "Look out behind you," or "look behind," depending on the variation of the story. And one of the Mannegishi turned around quickly, and the man got a glimpse of his face. The men managed to take away a knife from the Mannegishi that they captured, and the rest would soon disappear. The rest of the little people would begin riding a log through a rock wall to the inside of what I'm assuming was some form of a magical cave. The men could hear the Mannegishi crying out, and they knew that it was here that they lived. Then the men took the knife they had taken from their captor and threw it into the side of this rock wall where it had managed to enter the Minegishi's home. Now, whether or not this knife caused any of them harm or not it's not known. And as far as what happened to the Minegishi that they captured, I can only hope that they decided to give him a scolding and let him go. If these little people are real, people are people, no matter how small. The little people from Cree, Ojibwa, and Algonquin legend all have very similar descriptions to the Dover demon, which is a sighting that few have made the connection with. Perhaps the encounter with the Dover demon is a sign that these little people are still out there, changing to better fit the world they live in, or maybe it's just something different altogether. If you like what I do and want to help support me, then the best way to do that is by joining the community on Patreon. I post when I can, and it goes a long way in supporting the channel. But if you're not into that, then just check out this video YouTube seems to think you'll love, and I'll see you there.